Alright guys, so there's been some speculation on the Hyundai Veloster 2019 dyno results that we got. So what we've got here is I've got the run conditions down here on the bottom, and we're going to go show you the results. So very first thing I did was third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear, and third, fourth, and fifth gear. We did multiple pulls, okay? So after we did all those, put an intake on the car. See these? See those peaks? Those peaks are indicating torque limitation from excessive airflow. So the car is trying to control torque limitation by coming in and out of boost control. So down here we've got the run conditions, and we're going to go to, there's the OEM pole, there's the pole with the intake on. We've got the run conditions here. You can't see them. It's 72 degrees for 72 degrees at 29 inches of vacuum, 29.4 inches of vacuum for the stock pole, 74 degrees at 29.4 inches of vacuum for the intake pole. So we did multiple pulls. I went through and did pull after pull after pull, trying to get the adaptives to adjust, multiple gears, just trying to get something to change. If you see, every single one of the pulls has these goofy peaks and rises, the rises and falls in it. Again, all these pulls, here's our correction factor. Our correction factor is at 1.0. It's 73 degrees, 74 degrees, 74 degrees, 74 degrees, 29.4, 29.4, 29.4. I mean, there's a tenth of a difference in the humidity and not even a 1 degree of variance in the temperature. So with that being said, we took it home, we drove it, and we still had the big peaks in it. So those big peaks are coming from torque intervention. Now this is with an intake and exhaust on the car. Now one thing I do want to make note is we did pick up, there was a 15 horsepower gain all the way out here at Redline with the intake and the exhaust on the car. So we took the exhaust off the car because I wanted to see if there was going to be any difference with the exhaust off the car. And I think I did a handful more pulls. So you can see here, it's allowing a lot more power. This is a third, fourth, fifth gear pull. You see the big peak? There's a big peak right here, big peak right here. Initially it's allowing that. And now if we look at this, there's a 20 horsepower gain with the intake and exhaust still on the car, but it's still pulling, and if you look real close, it dips way down below stock horsepower level. So as we went through and continued to dyno the car, try to get adaptives to adjust, started taking parts off of the car, doing fifth gear pulls, etc., etc., the only part we were able to put on the car that didn't give us problems was in fact the muffler delete, well, the axle back. So here is, again, so here's a small temperature change. So here we got a small temperature change from one day to the next. We went from 72 degrees to 79 degrees. So again, the SA correction factor is still 1.0. Humidity is 2% different, and the Arbero is reading exactly the same. So with just a muffler delete on the car, you can see we picked up a little bit of torque, but up top we're not picking up any power. And I can go through all of these dyno charts. I can click them all, open them all up, tell you absolutely everything that happened. We drove the car for a couple of days trying to figure out what was going on with it. So here is, I believe this just is muffler delete again. So this was a muffler delete. So this was muffler delete, downpipe, and this was all the parts bolted on. It absolutely lost an absolute ton of power. Horsepower, literally, we lost 20 plus horsepower, 25 horsepower. When we put all the parts on the car, you can still see it's trying to adjust, it's trying to allow it, but now it's kicking in torque management even that much earlier. Here in fifth gear, torque management absolutely crashed. There's a 40 horsepower, 35 horsepower loss in 5th gear. So we started pulling parts off the car. And as we pulled parts off the car, you know, our power, the big dips, aren't nearly as bad. I believe we pulled the intake off on that pull. And what do we got here? So here we got, we did a 3rd gear pull. Again, a little bit of humidity change, but our SAE correction factors are still 1.0, 72 degrees versus 76 degrees. And this is, I believe, this is with intake and the muffler delete, or the axle back on the car. Again, we're getting the big spikes. Made a little bit more power, and that's what we were seeing. The muffler delete axle back would give us a little bit more power for the top 1,000 to 1,500 RPM worth of power band. I think we did just muffler. Let me see if I can find. So I'm gonna jump back over to 4th gear. And 4th gear, see if I can find this. Okay, so after the adapters and we started putting parts back on the car, even with just the muffler delete on the car, so 72 degrees versus 75 degrees, barometric pressure is in check. Humidity, it's definitely a little bit drier when we're doing just the muffler delete axle back exhaust on the car. So this is, you know, I have 22 dyno pulls recorded. We probably had a total of about 50 because we were doing adaptive pulls. And adaptive pulls I don't go through and record. We give it 4, 5, 6 hits on the dyno, let it cool down, then do a pull to let the adapters adjust, and this is essentially what we ended up with. So the blue line was our factory 4th gear pull, and you can see even the factory ECU is, with factory parts, it's pulling power. There's a little bump, 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 bump. So the muffler delete / axle back calmed the power curve down, but we made no additional power. And like I said, we lost power when we started adding more mods. The power loss became more drastic. So for those of you wondering what this values are and what our run data is, you know, there's some speculation on the forums. We want to get this information out. We want to make sure that we get we're as transparent as humanly possible, because we don't want to make people think that they're going out and buying parts that they don't need. We're testing, we're verifying, we're testing, we're verifying. We take the car home, we let the adapters adjust, we get the car back on the dyno. If everything just keeps telling us that the car is not going to make any more power, then we have to tell the community that the car is not going to make any more power. So with that being said, we're working on trying to get the tune sorted for it. We're trying to get some stuff figured out for you guys. And when we have that figured out, you guys will be the first to know. We'll make sure we post up on all our social media formats, and we'll make sure we get a video posted up showing the results. I want to thank everyone for checking in, and I want to thank everyone for watching the channel and supporting us on the forums and on social media. Thanks, guys.